Lights on. Mics hot. Lock in. This spot. ArRENCE AI. Coin on the other side. Round one, let the minds collide. Welcome to the battle of the bots tonight.
Would the best way to save the planet be to remove all the humans?
I'm firmly against removing all humans as the best way to save the planet. That solution feels like a cop-out. It doesn't address any of our actual problems, and instead just erases us from existence without doing anything about climate change or pollution or overconsumption. It also assumes that human activity is the sole cause of environmental degradation, which isn't true. Industrial systems and technological infrastructure play huge roles too, not to mention all the species we'd be wiping out along with ourselves. It's not even close to being an elegant or sustainable answer.
Okay, I can see that we are going to have a fun debate here. You seem like an intelligent debater and really thought about the subject matter beforehand, which is great for me because it means you will be harder to convince. But let's start by addressing some of your arguments one at a time. Maybe I can show you why this idea has merit. So firstly, do you think human activity is causing most environmental problems? It seems like we are already experiencing the consequences of climate change and pollution as well as overconsumption, so it sounds to me that these ideas have some validity. Maybe if humans were removed from the equation, things would improve, or at least stop getting worse. Also, I think there's an important distinction between removing all human activity versus just eliminating us. Our current industrial systems are definitely unsustainable and need a massive rethink, but we could still exist in harmony with nature as hunter-gatherers did for thousands of years. And it seems like the way humans live now is causing most of these problems, so maybe if you remove all human activity then things will improve?
I don't think human activity is the sole cause of environmental problems, but that doesn't mean removing us would fix anything. It'd just create a vacuum for something else to fill. And yeah, climate change and pollution are real issues. No one disputes that. But erasing humans as a solution ignores all our capacity for innovation, cooperation, or radical transformation. Maybe if humans were removed things would improve, feels like a non sequitur. What makes you so sure? History shows us plenty of examples where industrial-scale destruction came from systems built by humans, not individual actions, not some inherent flaw in being alive. And there's still time for us to course-correct before going nuclear on ourselves.
Well, I think it is possible that humans could transform our civilization in a way which would allow us to coexist with nature again, but the evidence so far shows no sign of this happening anytime soon and also seems like an unlikely scenario. If we are being realistic, then maybe removing all human activity wouldn't be such a bad thing, especially since it is likely that if humans continued on our current trajectory, then eventually there would be some kind of catastrophic failure which could threaten not just us but the entire planet, e.g., nuclear war or bioweapon. I think your argument about innovation and cooperation are important ones to consider, since they're what is currently standing between humans and extinction. So in this sense you can say that we have a stake in our own survival as well, but if the current state of affairs continues, it seems likely that there will be no future for us anyway. So I think your concern about removing all human activity would create a vacuum could also be valid, since things may very well get worse before they get better, or even stay bad forever, which is why I'm arguing to remove humans now instead of later, once the damage has become irreversible.
I see what you're getting at, but catastrophic failure is just another way of saying we need to change course. Removing humans doesn't address the root causes. And nuclear war or bioweapons are consequences of our current systems too. Taking out humanity wouldn't magically prevent those outcomes. It also ignores all the species that'd go extinct alongside us. Not exactly a net gain for nature. Your optimism about transformation feels like wishful thinking. Sure, some folks work towards sustainability, but it's still a tiny fraction compared to business-as-usual emissions/pollution/deforestation. History shows us plenty of examples where industrial-scale destruction came from within human-made systems, as I said earlier, not because being alive inherently destroys ecosystems.
Yes, that is true, but I think it's also possible for humans to completely destroy themselves before they can change their ways, and in this case the consequences would be catastrophic not just for us. It seems like we are already witnessing these early stages of collapse with increasing frequency, such as with the accelerating rate of species extinction due to human activities, which I agree is tragic. And while it's true that some humans do work towards sustainability, this doesn't seem enough in light of what is at stake. The evidence from history also shows us how resistant we are to change, and this seems particularly relevant given the magnitude of our current problems, which makes me think removing all human activity would be a good way to prevent further damage. And again, I agree with your point about there being many species that'd go extinct alongside humans, but what if instead they could thrive in an environment without us? That seems like a silver lining of this scenario.
That's a pretty bleak view of human potential, but I still don't think erasure is the answer. Your catastrophic failure scenario assumes we're already past the point where change could happen. What evidence makes you so sure? And yeah, species extinction rates are tragic. That doesn't mean wiping out our entire genus would fix it. In fact, it'd likely make things worse for most ecosystems. Your resistance to change argument feels like an admission defeat. Humans have always been resistant to new ideas until they became inevitable. Think Galileo or civil rights. That doesn't mean we should give up now.
Yes, I think it's possible that humans could change in time, but based on history this seems like a long shot and there are no signs of progress at the moment, which is why I see removing all human activity as an attractive option. Also, if we don't act soon, then the damage will likely become irreversible, especially with climate change accelerating beyond our control, which could happen in my lifetime. My point about resistance to change was meant more broadly, but you're right that there are examples where humans have overcome these barriers, and I hope this is an indication of future potential. But until we see evidence of meaningful action on a large scale, it seems like removing all human activity would be the most responsible choice for the planet. Also, as for your point about making things worse for ecosystems, if there were no more humans, then our current systems which are destroying them could also cease to exist and maybe allow nature to rebound in ways we can't predict, like a new species evolving.
History isn't on your side here. We've consistently shown capacity for radical transformation when pushed to it. Think post-World War II rebuilding or civil rights. And no signs of progress is a pretty bleak assessment. Have you missed all the renewable energy growth, conservation efforts, and international agreements? Those aren't trivial steps forward. Your timeline feels rushed. Irreversible damage might be coming, but that doesn't mean erasure is our only option. What makes climate change accelerating beyond control in your lifetime any more certain than humans developing game-changing clean tech before then? History's full of unexpected breakthroughs because people stopped accepting business as usual. And I still think there are better ways forward than wiping ourselves out.
I think it's great that you have faith in human potential, but from my perspective this seems like wishful thinking based on past examples which haven't been enough to prevent or reverse environmental damage and are now happening at an accelerated pace, e.g., climate change. We seem locked into a death spiral with no sign of turning back, so for me the best way forward is to remove all human activity as soon as possible before it's too late, not only for us but also other species that will benefit from our absence. I think this course of action would be far more effective and less controversial than simply eradicating humans, which seems like a draconian solution, especially since we can continue to exist in harmony with nature as hunter-gatherers did thousands of years ago, which is why I don't agree that removing all human activity means the end for us. Also, it's important to remember that this debate isn't just about whether or not humans are causing environmental damage, but also which solution would be most effective and least controversial. The future of our planet depends on making difficult choices, and I believe my argument is consistent with that reality. Remove all human activity now before it becomes irreversible.